I'm going to make apple cider vinegar shampoo bars. My adult kids love this, and we're out, so they've been asking for a while for me to make some more. I've already pre-measured everything. I didn't think we needed to spend video time on measurements. I'll just run through this really quick, the supplies that I have and the ingredients. I have cocoa butter, apple cider vinegar, lye, coconut oil, sunflower oil, castor oil, which is actually quite thick and dense, and castor oil is very, very good for your hair and your skin, and it actually helps improve hair growth, so this is nice. I'm using vegetable oil. I don't like canola oil, so I usually use vegetable oil when the recipe calls for canola. Olive oil. I have my fragrance here. I use fragrance oil for pretty much everything because it's much cheaper than essential oils. I love essential oils, but they're just way too expensive for soap making. I will use essential oils in my herbal salves, where it actually stays on the skin and you get some benefit from it. When you use it in soap, you're just washing your hands or your hair and it's coming right off again, so to me it's a waste. I have two different color dyes here. They're natural dyes. This is a mossy green, and I added it to a little bit of the vegetable oil so that it's liquidy and I won't have chunks. And this is titanium dioxide. It gives me a white color. And again, I mixed it with vegetable oil. I need a pot to warm up and melt my solid oils in. I need a glass or plastic container to mix my lye and my vinegar. And then I need a stick blender for later. I will use this to mix up the white. I'll show you how to do that, but you need a spatula and a plastic or glass container for that. I have a 2-gallon bucket for my mixing bucket where I mix the lye and the oils together, and that turns the two ingredients into soap. It's through the saponification process. It actually does a chemical reaction and it turns it into a soap. And then these are my molds. I do have wooden ones. These are silicone round molds, which I really like for shampoo bars. And I have parchment in here lining it so they'll come out easier. They do come out fairly easy, especially if you put them in the freezer when they're done and get it kind of cold, and then you roll it back and forth and then you can push them out. But I like having the paper in there. It just comes out much easier. Alright, so we'll get started. So I'm going to combine all of my oils, and then I warm it up until the solids are melted. And while that's going on, I'm going to add my lye to my vinegar, and it will get very, very, very warm, like hot. And we have to wait, kind of balance it out. We have to get it below 100 degrees, and it has to be within 10 degrees of each other when you combine the two, the oil and the lye solution. So the first thing though is to get all of the oils going, and because it's measured out so accurately, you want to get every little tiny bit of oil you can out so you're not low on oils when it comes to mixing the two together. So that's the coconut oil. This is the cocoa butter. It's very sticky stuff. And then the sunflower oil. The castor oil, again, it's very thick stuff here. So you can order it online by the half-gallon or the gallon. Castor oil is very, very, very good for soap making. It makes a very hard bar. Like lard also makes a hard bar, so it lasts a lot longer, but it's also very, very good for the skin. Alright, Alright, now comes the vegetable oil. And each oil has a different density, and so you can go online to different soap making calculators and you can type in or put in how much oil you have on hand of any kind of oil. It could be walnut oil, corn oil, soybean oil, anything that you have, and it will generate how much lye and how much liquid you need. And you can use tea, you can use milk, goat milk, you can use vinegar like we're doing today. Any kind of liquid can go into it and it will generate that as well. Alright, so all of my oils are in here. And I'm going to go ahead and warm it up. So I'll put this on the stove and be right back. Alright, the oils are warming up, so now it's time to get the lye going. It helps if you get a thermometer, a digital thermometer, that's what it is. You know, you just push and it tells you what the temperature is. So you can see right now my vinegar is 64.5 degrees. When we add these two together, the lye and the vinegar, it's going to shoot way up, and I'll show you that. So I also wanted to point out that the lye, if you look along the back here, it's already starting to absorb moisture from the air. Now I live along the coast, so our air is pretty moist, and the longer it sits here, the more it's going to turn into a hard crystal. So anytime you have your lye, once you open your bottle of lye, you always want to make sure that it's sealed very well because it will absorb the moisture and it can become a problem later. Okay, so you always add the lye to the liquid. If you do it the other way around and put your lye in the mixing container first and then add your liquid, you end up with a volcano. So into the container goes the vinegar. And now I'm going to put in just a little bit of the lye. You can see how it's all clumping together already. It's very moist here today. I'm going to put about half in. I'm going to start mixing it. Now you're going to start seeing it's going to have fumes come up, steam, smoke. You do not want to be leaning over this and stirring. You want to lean away from it so you're not breathing these fumes. It makes you choke and cough and burns your nose. And just to give you an idea, we're at 155 right now. That's how fast it goes up. It's a chemical reaction. One of my sons loves chemistry, and so he loves to watch me make soap. Okay, here goes the rest of the lye. Now sometimes when you add the lye, it hits the bottom of your container and it might, I don't know how would I explain it, it crystallizes and sticks on the bottom, and that's fine. You just keep stirring and mixing and it does dissolve. And you don't want to get this on you. This is lye water, lye solution, and it will burn you. And we are at 190, 91, 90. Looks like 195 at this point. So it shot up in the matter of like a minute from 61, 64, something like that, to 195. So the tricky part is you have something super hot like this, and then you have something not quite as hot. It'd still be pretty warm. 143. So my oil is definitely cooler than my lye solution. And we want to get both of these solutions under 100 degrees, but within 10 degrees of each other. So I can have one at 90 and one at 100, or I can have one at 85 and another at 95, as long as they are within 10 degrees of each other. And this one I'm going to put into a cool water bath, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. So here's my lye solution, my vinegar and my lye, and I have it in an ice bath in the kitchen sink. And I fill it just, I think you can see, the water level is right here. And this way it's not going to tip over or float. If you have the water up too high, it's actually going to become unstable and it can flip over and you lose your lye solution. So all I'm doing here is trying to cool it down. Here we go. Pointing at the wrong thing. So we're down into the 160s. And I just put it in here before the camera started rolling. So it's bringing it down pretty fast. And you just stir it very gently. You don't want to splash. You don't want to get it on you. If you do get it on you, you can use vinegar to neutralize the lye. The first time I made soap, I was so terrified of the lye solution because everybody says, oh, it's gonna, burn you. They just make it so scary that I did it out on my front porch, and I had goggles on, and I had gloves on, and I had an apron on, and I wouldn't let my kids even look out the door to watch me. I was like so scared of it. And after a few times of doing this, I realized it's not that big of a deal. The fumes can be a problem, but that only happens for the first 2 or 3 minutes after mixing the lye in, and then after that the fumes are pretty much gone. So let's see where we're at. We're down into it's bouncing, 149, 150. So it's coming down pretty quick. And now the struggle is to try and get this to keep coming down and to get my oils to come down at the same time. So I will probably get this pretty cool down into the 120s and remove it, and then I'll put my oil in here and try and get it down into like 110, between 105 and 115. And then once you add the oil into the bucket that you're going to blend everything up in, it cools down even more simply because all that oil is going through the air into the bucket. It cools down, the bucket is cool. So you kind of have to think ahead and not get it so cool that when it hits the bucket you're going to be down in the 80s or even the 70s. So we're at 140. I might move this around a little bit so if there's a pocket of warm water around there, it's going to get moved. Down to 136. So we'll just keep going with this till I get down to about 115, 120. Alright, so I got my lye solution down to 113 and I took it off, and now I've got my oil in here and I'm just letting it cool off as well. Let's see what we're down to. 122, 123. We're getting there. It doesn't take long. After the camera shut off for the lye, it took less than 5 minutes for it to get down to 113. So I'll show you when both of them are the same temperature and what the next step is. Alright, so our oil is at 99.5. Our lye is at 104. So I'm going to wait just another minute or so. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and pour the oil into the bucket. And I'm going to get every last drop out of here. Now, like I said, once it goes through the air and lands in the bucket, all that air time, it cools off. As well as hitting a cold bucket, it cools off again. So this was at 99. Now it's at 95, 96. So figure that in too. You don't want it to be too cold, especially the oil, because the oils, if they get too cool, can turn into a solid again. We're just going to check this again. Alright, I think it's ready. It's right at like 102. Alright, here we go. Now as soon as I add this, you're going to notice that there's a chemical reaction and it starts to get thick and, I don't know, sort of like mashed potato-y. You'll see it. Here we go. And I'm going to get all of this out as well. And this one I'm putting right in the sink with water because I don't want any lye. Now, can you see that sort of sludgy stuff in the bottom? That's the chemical reaction starting to take place. And you can stir it. If you don't have a stick blender, you can stir it, but it may take you half an hour of stirring to actually get it to where it needs to be. And that's fine. It's perfectly fine. I'm going to use the stick blender, and you'll see how fast it sets. What we're looking for is when we dribble across the top. You can almost see it now. It's called trace. You see like little dimples where it drops in. What we want is almost like a little pudding that's left behind on the top. We don't want it to be too thick because we can't get it into our mold, but we don't want it too runny either because it takes longer for it to set up. And right now you see this amber color. Once I start the stick blend, it will get lighter and lighter. And then I will separate it into, I'll put some into a smaller measuring cup, and I'll mix in the white coloring, and then I'll put the green coloring in this bucket, so I have both of them. Alright, let's get the stick blender going. Alright, when you put it in, you don't want to put air into your soap. So you're going to go at it at an angle, and then you're going to tap a little bit, get the air bubbles out of there, so you're not getting them in. And then, if I can hold it right, here we go. You can see how light it's getting already. I'll stir it a little bit so I can feel how thick it's getting. It's not quite there yet, but it's a little bit more pudding-like than it was before I started. I don't know if you caught that, but I tilted it so that it was deeper than what I'm getting here. You heard all that bubble. Those are all those air bubbles you want to avoid. I'm also doing this on low. You can do it on high, but it goes super fast when you do it on high, so I would suggest you do this first. Okay, we've got a trace, and I will show you. Can you see how it's leaving little bits behind? I don't know if you can see that. There's dimples, there's little drizzles. I hope that shows up on the camera. Anyway, right now I'm going to take this off. I'm going to pour some into my measuring cup for the white, and then I will add the green. It's already starting to get thick pretty quick here. There we go. Whoops. Just got green dye on the counter. Okay. So I'm going to put the white dye in here. I'll mix it in real quick, and then I'll blend it in a minute. I need to get my green going as well. So that's done. Now I'm going to get the green into the main. This is called moss green. And when I'm doing it slowly this way, it's not going to thicken as much as if I were to use the stick blender and get it going very quickly. I'm going to go all the way around the edges to get any white color in there out. Alright. Now I'm back to my white, and yeah, this takes very little time, and you kind of have to go quickly when you're doing this. This really doesn't need to be stick blended. It's doing really well. So, what I like to do is to have two different colors, and I just do like a swirl. I'm not fancy. I like soap. I like homemade soap. I like soap that has color and fragrance, but I'm not totally crazy about doing all the fancy stuff. I just don't have the time. So before I put in the white, I'm going to add the fragrance. Now the fragrance, sometimes it will thicken it, like within 30 seconds you've got almost hard soap. Other times it can take, a long time before it gets thick. You never know until you try that fragrance for the first time, and it can depend on the recipe as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in here and hope for the best. I have rosemary as my fragrance scent here. And no, I did not add any into the white, and that's fine because the white is just going to be a swirl throughout this green soap. I'm always trying to clean the sides and try and get it all clean. Keep all the soap down in the bottom. Alright, here we go with the white. I'm just going to no rhyme or reason to it. You just get it in there. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my spatula and I'm just going to swirl it once or twice. If you do it too much, you're just blending it in. So I go around the outside, and then I start coming in the inside. And I'll cut across once or twice. And I'm done. Now I'm going to pour it into my mold. And I'm going to do this to make it simpler. And here we go. You can see all that beautiful swirl. Woo! Too full. Alright, I'll do the next one, but I gotta spin it out. thought it would all fit. That's why it's always good to have a second mold ready, because you never know. Alright. That should do it. And then, where's my spoon? There it is. I'm just going to go around the top and smooth it down a little bit. That's it. Just so it's smooth on top. Then I put my cap on. And this one is done for now. I still have to wrap it up in towels. But in the meantime, I need to get my next one going here. And I want some of this white mixed into it. White. There we go. Sorry guys, it's a little bit awkward to be doing this and filming because I'm at sort of weird angles. Very quickly go around and get all of that good stuff in there. There we go. This one I will probably bounce just a little bit. It helps if you bend your knees when you're bouncing instead of keeping them straight. Okay, there we are. So I'll put the lid on this one as well. Where did the lid go? Here it is. And I'll show you the next step.